What do you do when everyone abandons you? When the world turns its back, when friends disappear, when family doesn't understand, and you're left completely alone with your dreams? Most people crumble. But Carl Jung discovered something extraordinary, that your greatest power emerges not despite your isolation, but because of it. This isn't another motivational video telling you to just believe in yourself. This is about something far more profound. Today, we're diving deep into Carl Jung's revolutionary psychology to uncover how you can not just survive, but thrive when you're completely on your own. By the end of this video, you'll understand why some of history's greatest achievers felt most powerful in their solitude, and how you can harness that same force. Stay with me, because what you're about to learn will fundamentally change how you see yourself, your struggles, and your path forward. Act 1. The Crisis of Isolation. Chapter 1. Why Being Alone Feels Like Dying. Let's start with the truth that no one wants to admit. Being alone is terrifying, and there's a reason for that. For hundreds of thousands of years, isolation meant death. Our ancestors who wandered away from the tribe didn't become heroes. They became lunch for predators. Evolution wired our brains with a deep, primal fear of abandonment. When you feel that crushing anxiety in your chest when no one responds to your messages, when you sit alone on a Friday night, when you pitch your dreams and everyone laughs, that's not weakness. That's your amygdala screaming that you're in danger. Storytelling moment. I want you to imagine Sarah. She's 27, and 2 years ago, she decided to start her own business. Her boyfriend left her, said she was too obsessed. Her friends stopped inviting her out. She couldn't afford the restaurants anymore. Couldn't party on weekends because she was working. Her parents kept asking when she'd get a real job. One night, she's sitting in her apartment, laptop glowing in the darkness, and she realizes there's no one to call. No one who believes in what she's doing. No one who would even understand if she tried to explain. She's completely, utterly alone. Here's what makes this moment powerful. Sarah is standing at the exact crossroads where Jung says real transformation begins. Jung's Insight 1. The Night Sea Journey. Carl Jung studied mythology, religion, and the human psyche for over 60 years, and he noticed something remarkable. In virtually every culture, the hero's journey includes what he called the Night Sea Journey, a period of complete isolation, darkness, and despair. Jonah in the belly of the whale, Buddha abandoning his palace, Jesus in the desert for 40 days. These aren't just religious stories, they're psychological maps. They're showing us that the path to becoming who you're meant to be requires a journey through isolation. Jung wrote, and I quote, "The psychological rule says that when an inner situation is not made conscious, it happens outside as fate." Relatable content. The modern isolation. But here's what makes our era particularly brutal. We're experiencing a new kind of isolation. You can be surrounded by people and still be completely alone. You can have 1,000 followers and no one who truly knows you. You can be in a relationship and feel more isolated than if you were single. This is what Jung would call collective isolation. When you're disconnected not just from others, but from your authentic self. Engagement moment. If you're feeling this right now, if you're working on something that no one understands, if you're changing and leaving people behind, if you're walking a path where there are no footprints ahead of you, drop a in the comments. You're not alone in being alone, and you're about to discover why that's your greatest advantage. Act 2. Jung's Roadmap to Self-Reliance. Chapter 2. Individuation. The Journey to Become Yourself. Jung's entire life work centered around one concept, individuation. And understanding this is the key to everything. Individuation is the process of becoming who you actually are, rather than who others expect you to be. It's psychological birth. And here's the paradox that changes everything. You can only become yourself by separating from the collective. Storytelling moment. Jung's own crisis. Let me tell you about Jung's own dark night. In 1913, at age 38, he broke with his mentor Sigmund Freud. Overnight, He went from being the heir apparent of psychoanalysis to an outcast. His colleagues abandoned him. His professional reputation was destroyed. He lost almost everything. For the next 6 years, Jung descended into what he called his confrontation with the unconscious. He was plagued by visions, dreams, and psychological experiences so intense that he wasn't sure if he was going mad. But during this period of complete isolation, Jung did something revolutionary. Instead of running from his inner turmoil, he documented it. He created what became the Red Book, a leather-bound journal, where he recorded his visions, painted his dreams, and dialogued with the figures emerging from his unconscious. He wrote, "The years when I was pursuing my inner images were the most important. In my life, in them, everything essential was decided. The 4 pillars of solitary growth. Pillar 1, meeting your shadow. When you're alone, you can't hide from yourself anymore. And the first thing you'll meet is what Jung called the shadow. Your shadow is everything you've repressed, denied, or hidden about yourself. It's your jealousy, your rage, your selfishness, your fears, your secret desires. Most people spend their entire lives running from their shadow, projecting it onto others, blaming the world for what they can't face in themselves. But here's the transformation. When no one is watching, when you have no one to perform for, you're forced to meet your shadow face to face. Practical application. Jung developed a practice called shadow work, and you can start this tonight. Take out a journal and complete these sentences. The quality I hate most in others is, that's your shadow. If no one would judge me, I would, that's your repressed desire. My biggest fear about myself is, that's your hidden wound. The power isn't in ignoring these answers. It's in owning them. When you can say, yes, I have darkness in me. Yes, I have these qualities, and I'm not going to let them control me unconsciously. That's when you become whole. This is intense work. If you're committed to doing this shadow work, type "I see my shadow" in the comments. Let's create a community of people brave enough to face themselves. Pillar 2, discovering your true self. Once you've faced your shadow, something remarkable happens. You start to discover what Jung called the self, capital S. The self is different from your ego. Your ego is your conscious identity. I am a teacher. I am an entrepreneur. I am a daughter. Your self is something far deeper. It's the organizing principle of your entire psyche. It's who you are beneath all the labels, all the roles, all the expectations. And here's why isolation is essential. You can only hear the voice of yourself when all the other voices quiet down. Storytelling moment. Think about every spiritual tradition. Why do seekers go to mountaintops, monasteries, and deserts? Because wisdom doesn't emerge from crowds. It emerges from silence. Jung himself built a tower in Bollingen, Switzerland, a stone refuge with no electricity, no phone, minimal contact with the outside world. He said it represented his true self in stone. It was there, in that isolation, that he produced his most profound work. Practical application. You don't need to build a tower, but you do need to create what I call sacred. Solitude, non-negotiable. Time alone where you're not consuming content, not scrolling, not distracting yourself. Here's the practice. 30 minutes, completely alone. No phone, no music, no input. Just you, a journal, and one question. What does myself want me to know? At first, you'll hear nothing. Your mind will scream for distraction. But if you persist, after weeks of this practice, something deeper starts to speak. That's yourself emerging. Pillar 3, active imagination. Now we get to one of Jung's most powerful but least understood techniques. Active imagination. Active imagination is a method of dialoguing with your unconscious. It's not meditation, not visualization, it's a conscious conversation with the autonomous forces within your psyche. Jung discovered this during his isolation. He would sit and allow images to emerge spontaneously from his unconscious. Then, instead of just observing them, he would interact with them. He'd ask them questions. They'd answer back, not with his conscious voice, but with something else entirely. Relatable content. I know this sounds mystical, But think about it this way. Have you ever had an argument with yourself where it felt like two different voices were debating? One part of you wants to take a risk. Another part wants to stay safe. One part is ambitious. Another part is terrified. Those aren't just thoughts, they're autonomous complexes, psychological entities with their own intelligence. Active imagination is learning to work with these parts consciously, to integrate them rather than being torn apart by them. Practical application. Here's a beginner's version you can try. Sit quietly and think about a recurring problem or emotion. Give it an image. Maybe it's a person, an animal, a symbol. In your journal, write a dialogue. You ask it questions. Who are you? What do you want from me? What are you trying to teach me? Then write its response, but don't think about it. Let it come spontaneously. This sounds simple, but it's profound. You're not creating these responses. You're uncovering them. And when you do this alone, without anyone to judge or interpret for you, the insights are remarkable. Pillar 4, finding your calling. And this brings us to perhaps the most important discovery. Isolation reveals your calling. Jung distinguished between two types of work, what the world demands from you and what yourself demands from you. Most people spend their entire lives doing the former, never discovering the latter. Your calling isn't what makes you money. It's not what impresses others. It's not even what you're good at. Your calling is what Jung called the demand of your own nature, the thing your psyche will not let you not do. Storytelling moment. Jung tells the story of a patient, a successful businessman who came to him with depression. Through analysis, Jung discovered this man had a secret passion. He wanted to write, but he'd buried it for decades. Believing it was impractical, childish, indulgent, Jung told him, "Your depression is your unlived life knocking at the door. It won't go away until you answer." The man started writing. Not for publication, not for profit, for himself. His depression lifted. This is the power of solitude. It strips away what others want from you and reveals what you want from yourself. Engagement moment. Here's a question for you to sit with. If you knew no one would ever see your work, never know your name, never give you credit, what would you still feel compelled to do? That whisper in your soul when you answer that question, that's your calling. And the fact that you're alone right now might be exactly what you need to hear it clearly. If this is hitting home, let me know in the comments what your calling is. You might inspire someone else to acknowledge theirs. Act 3, The Practical Path Forward. Chapter 3, Building Your Inner Authority. Okay, we've gone deep into theory. Now let's talk about practical application. How do you actually use Jung's insights to get ahead when no one is there for you? Strategy 1. Stop seeking external validation. This is the hardest and most important shift. You must become your own authority. Jung wrote, "The privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are." Notice he said privilege, not right, not goal, but privilege. Because most people never do it. They spend their entire lives being who others need them to be. Relatable content. Think about how much of your mental energy is consumed by these questions. What will people think? Will they like it? Am I good enough? Will this impress them? Every time you ask these questions, you're giving your power away. You're making others the authority over your life. The shift. Here's the Jungian shift. Instead of asking, will others approve? Ask, does this serve my individuation? Does this align with who I'm becoming? Practical exercise. For the next 30 days, I want you to try this experiment. The authority transfer practice. Every morning, write, "Today I am the authority on my life." When making decisions, don't ask, what would others do? Ask, what does myself require? At night, review your day and notice, where did I give my authority away? Where did I reclaim it? This simple practice, done consistently in your solitude, will fundamentally rewire your psychology. Strategy 2. Transmute loneliness into creative power. Jung observed something fascinating. The most creative periods in people's lives often coincide with their most isolated periods. There's a reason for this. Creation requires psychic energy. When you're constantly managing relationships, responding to others, performing your identity, Your psychic energy is depleted. But in solitude, all that energy becomes available for creation. Storytelling moment. Consider these facts. J.K. Rowling conceived Harry Potter during a period of poverty and isolation, a single mother with no support system. Beethoven composed his greatest symphonies while deaf and alone. Maya Angelou rented hotel rooms where no one knew her to write in complete isolation. Steve Jobs' most innovative period came after being fired from Apple when he was isolated from his former life. This isn't coincidence. This is the pattern Jung identified. Isolation concentrates your psychic energy, and concentrated psychic energy creates breakthrough. Practical application. Here's how to transmute your loneliness. The creation ritual. Acknowledge your loneliness. Don't deny it. Say, I feel alone and that's painful. Then ask, what wants to be created through this feeling? Take that raw emotional energy and channel it into your work, your art, your project, your learning. The loneliness doesn't disappear, but it transforms from something that destroys you into something that makes you. Engagement moment. If you've ever created something meaningful during a lonely period, share it in the comments. Your story might be exactly what someone else needs to hear right now. Strategy 3. Build your inner circle of dead mentors. Here's a secret about isolation. You're never truly alone if you know how to access wisdom. Jung had a practice that's incredibly relevant today. When he felt isolated, when the world didn't understand him, he would have conversations with historical figures. He'd read their work deeply, then imagine dialoguing with them. Not in a superficial way, he'd genuinely engage with their ideas, as if they were in the room with him. He called this building a relationship with the collective unconscious, but we can think of it more practically as creating an inner circle of dead mentors. Practical application. You can do this right now. Identify 5 to 10 people throughout history who resonate with your journey. They don't have to be famous. They just have to have walked a path similar to yours. Study them deeply. Read their books, letters, biographies. Understand not just what they did, but how they thought. Create a board of advisors in your mind. When you face a decision, ask, what would Jung do? What would Marcus Aurelius counsel? What would Marie Curie say? This isn't pretend. You're accessing real wisdom, real psychological patterns that these people embodied. And in your isolation, they become your companions. Personal note. Some of my best conversations have been with people who died centuries ago. When I'm alone at 2 a.m., doubting myself, I pick up Marcus Aurelius's Meditations and remember this Roman emperor felt the same doubts I do. Or I read Jung's letters and see him admitting confusion, fear, uncertainty, but continuing anyway. You're not alone. You're walking a path that countless others have walked. You just have to know where to look for the footprints. Strategy 4. Alchemy of the self. Jung spent years studying medieval alchemy, not because he believed in turning lead into gold, but because he recognized that alchemical texts were psychological metaphors. The alchemists were describing psychological transformation, how you take the lead of your suffering, your isolation, your struggles, and transmute it into the gold of wisdom, strength, and self-knowledge. This is the ultimate Jungian teaching for getting ahead alone. Everything that's happening to you, the rejection, the isolation, the lack of support, is raw material for transformation. The alchemical process. Stage 1. Negredo, the blackening. This is the dark night of the soul, the dissolution of your old self. This is where you are right now, everything falling apart, isolation, darkness. Most people try to escape this stage. Jung says, stay in it. This is where transformation begins. Stage 2. Albedo, the whitening. This is purification. As you face your shadow, as you strip away false identities and external validation, you're purified. What remains is your essential self. Stage 3, citrinitas, the yellowing. This is illumination. Insights begin to emerge. You start to see the pattern, the purpose, the meaning in your struggle. Stage 4, rubedo, the reddening. This is integration and wholeness. You emerge from your isolation not just surviving, but transformed, more yourself than you've ever been, with capabilities you couldn't have developed any other way. Storytelling moment. Let's go back to Sarah, the entrepreneur we met at the beginning. After 2 years of isolation, of feeling completely alone, something shifted. She stopped needing others to validate her vision. She stopped comparing herself to others' timelines. She had faced her shadow, her fear of failure, her need for approval, her doubt. And her business? It didn't just succeed, it succeeded because of who she became in that isolation. She developed a clarity, a confidence, a groundedness that clients could feel. She wasn't performing success, she was embodying it. That's alchemy. That's what Jung was pointing to. Practical application. So where are you in the alchemical process? If you're in Negredo in the darkness, don't run. Journal it, feel it. This is the beginning. If you're in albedo, purifying, keep stripping away what's not you. Keep saying no to what doesn't serve your individuation. If you're in citrinitas, gaining insights, document them. These will become your wisdom. If you're in rubido, emerging whole, remember this process. You'll cycle through it again, but at a higher level. The point is, you're not broken. You're transforming, and isolation is the crucible. Act 4, Emerging Stronger. Chapter 4, What Lies on the Other Side. So what happens when you do this work? When you truly embrace Jung's path of individuation in your isolation? The 4 gifts of solitary transformation. Gift 1, Unshakable self-knowledge. You develop what Jung called psychological wealth, a deep understanding of who you are, what you value, what you're capable of. No one can take this from you. No one can shake it. Because you didn't learn it from a book or a teacher. You earned it in the fire of your own experience. Gift 2, Authentic power. There's a difference between power over others and power with yourself. When you've done the work of individuation, you stop needing to control, impress, or dominate. You simply show up as who you are, and that presence is magnetic. Jung wrote, I am not what happened to me. I am what I choose to become. That choosing, that's authentic power. And it only develops in solitude. Gift 3, Creative fertility. You become a source. Ideas flow through you. Solutions emerge. Not because you're trying harder, but because you've cleared the channel between your conscious mind and yourself. You're no longer blocked by others' expectations or your own self-betrayal. Gift 4, the capacity for real connection. And here's the paradox. By becoming comfortable alone, you become capable of real connection, because you're no longer using relationships to fill a void or escape yourself. You're bringing wholeness to connection, not seeking wholeness through connection. Jung said, the meeting of 2 personalities is like the contact of 2 chemical substances. If there is any reaction, both are transformed. But you can only be transformed if you're actually present, not using the other person as a mirror or a savior or a distraction. Storytelling moment. The return. In Joseph Campbell's hero's journey, which was deeply influenced by Jung, there's a final stage called the return. The hero goes into the wilderness, faces trials alone, transforms, and then returns to the community with gifts. This is your future. The isolation you're experiencing now is not permanent. It's preparation. You're developing capacities, insights, and strength that you'll eventually bring back to the world. But you had to leave to develop them. Think of a butterfly. It has to be alone in the cocoon. If you cut the cocoon open to help it, the butterfly dies. The struggle to emerge is what develops the strength it needs to fly. Your isolation is your cocoon. So let's come full circle. You started this video feeling alone, maybe believing that's a problem to be solved. I hope you now see it differently. Your isolation, whether chosen or forced upon you, is not a bug in your life story. It's a feature. It's the invitation to the most important journey you'll ever take. The journey to become yourself. Jung's final wisdom. Near the end of his life, Jung reflected on everything he'd learned. And he said something remarkable. The privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are. Notice what he didn't say. He didn't say to be successful, or to be loved, or to be understood. He said to become who you truly are. And that journey, that sacred, difficult, beautiful journey happens in solitude. The real secret. Here's what I want you to understand. Every person who ever did anything significant spent time alone. Every artist, every innovator, every leader, every sage. Not because they were antisocial, but because creation requires solitude. Transformation requires solitude. Becoming requires solitude. You're not falling behind because you're alone. You're potentially getting ahead precisely because you're alone if you use this time wisely. Practical summary, your roadmap. Here's what to do starting today. 1. Accept your solitude. Stop fighting it. Stop believing something's wrong with you. This is your season of transformation. 2. Face your shadow. Journal the uncomfortable truths. Own your darkness. Integrate it. 3. Create your sacred solitude practice. 30 minutes a day, no input, just you and yourself. 4. Build your inner circle of dead mentors. You're not alone if you know how to access wisdom. Transmute your loneliness into creation. Channel that energy into your work, your art, your growth. 6. Trust the alchemical process. You're in the crucible. Something's being forged. Stay in the fire. And most importantly, stop waiting for someone to save you, validate you, or give you permission. You are the authority on your life. This is Jung's ultimate teaching. Final call to action. If this video resonated with you, if you're walking this solitary path right now, I want to hear from you. Comment below with one word that describes where you are in your journey right now. Just one word. This creates a record of this moment. And when you look back a year from now, you'll see how far you've come. And if you know someone who's struggling with isolation right now, someone who needs to hear this message, share this video with them. Sometimes the most powerful thing we can do for someone is help them see their struggle differently. Subscribe to this channel if you want more deep dives into psychology, philosophy, and the journey of becoming yourself. Hit the bell icon so you don't miss the next video. Final thought. Jung spent his final years at his tower in Bollingen, largely alone. A journalist once asked him if he was lonely. He smiled and said, "Loneliness does not come from having no people about one, but from being unable to communicate the things that seem important to oneself." So here's my question for you. What important thing have you been unable to communicate? What truth are you carrying alone? Maybe it's time to stop trying to communicate it to others and start communicating it to yourself. Start writing it, creating it, living it. The world doesn't need you to fit in. It needs you to become who you are. And that begins in solitude. Thank you for spending this hour with me. Now go take the next step on your journey.